Peace and welcome. Today we have our favorite fire themes from games. Our guidelines aren't too strict, but we do have a few. Number 1, it must have extreme heat. Fire, lava, the surface of the sun, anything like this is acceptable, as long as heat affects the gameplay in some way. Number 2, deserts do not count. That's a subject in itself. We will get to that top 10 sooner or later. Number 3, one per franchise. So with no further delay, we have our top 10 fire themes in games. Number 10, Chrono Cross, Death Volcano. Our number 10 spot is held by a theme from an underrated soundtrack. I often hear Chrono Trigger named among the great soundtracks, but rarely have I heard people mention Chrono Cross. It's a fantastic soundtrack. I recommend multiple themes. Death Volcano starts off with some PBS sounding synths, but once it gets going, you can start to hear how unique it really is. The CD quality is noticeable, and it may not make me think of fire or heat, but just the overall quality of the theme puts it in our top 10. Number 9, Life Force Stage 3. When I was growing up, shmups were one of my preferred genres of games to play, and I loved Life Force. I played this game more than I played Gradius. Gradius is a great game too, so don't get me wrong, I liked both of the games, but I just played this one more often. This theme brings back lots of memories. I really like the tune. Konami has plenty of games with great music, and Life Force is along those same lines. This theme appears in multiple versions of the game. For example, here is the arcade version, which is the same as the Sega Saturn version. I do prefer the NES version in this case. It may have less instruments and lower quality, but I played this game the most on the NES, and that Nintendo sound chip really isn't that bad for just some bleeps and bloops. Number 8, Mega Man 9, Magma Man. Released in 2008, this game has a retro feel, from the 8-bit graphics to the bleeps and bloops soundtrack. The game is a bit difficult compared to some of the other Mega Man games, but they did end up taming it a little bit in Mega Man 10. I really like the Magma Man theme. It's not just a simple tune, but it has some depth and it really starts to progress once the track gets going. Plus, I love the fact it has an old school feel. If more companies did this, you would not hear me complain. Number 7, Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, Volcano and Lava Dome. You know, it's quite difficult to leave the Final Fantasy franchise off of lists that have to do with music because there are plenty of really good themes. But this one is a little bit surprising because it's not by Nobuo Uematsu. He did most of the music for the Final Fantasy franchise, but not Mystic Quest. This theme does kind of remind me of Nobuo's music, so I think it fits the Final Fantasy realm. An underrated soundtrack for an underrated game. Number 6. The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. I think a lot of people are going to disagree with this one, but the eerie feel of this theme and the fact it was removed made it even more appealing. If this theme was not removed, it might not even make the list at all. But you know that feeling when someone takes something away, you want it even more? That's what happened here. And then you add on that the new theme kinda sucks. I find the new one to be boring and just not all that good. While the original has a little bit more of a creepy feel, it always stood out to me. And when it was taken out, it stood out even more. Number 5. Virtual Highlight, Volcanic. So as bad as this game is, there are some good things about it. Mainly the music. I used to play this game quite a bit because of the exploring aspect. I really like the outdoor element with an open world and lots of discovery. The frame rate is terrible, and the controls can affect the gameplay, but I do suggest and recommend some of the themes on the soundtrack. This list is not about the best games, but the best music, and I really think this deserves a place. Unlucky number 4, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest, Hot Head Bop. Our number 4 spot is another favorite composer of mine as well as many other people, composed by the one and only David Wise. I would personally put him up as one of my favorite composers of all time, and maybe the top American composer in video games. And now that I'm thinking about it, we will probably do a top 10 composers of all time. I really haven't thought about which 10 composers will be featured, but I can guarantee you David Wise will make that list. And his work on the Donkey Kong series helped cement his spot. Number 3, Super Mario 64, Lethal Lava Land. Now in the Mario series, there are a few things that you never have to worry about. Good controls, having fun, and good music. There are some exceptions here and there. You do have Hotel Mario, for example. But when it comes to the main series, you have some of the most iconic themes in all of video games, and it has been this way for nearly 30 years. Lethal Lava Land almost has a desert feel to it, and that may just be the instrument selection, but overall, this theme has a very unique feel. Number 2, Ducktales Remastered, Mount Vesuvius. This theme comes from the remastered version of Ducktales. The soundtrack on this game has a few added bonus tracks that you cannot find on the NES version. But one cool part about the remastered version is the option to change the soundtrack to the retro bleeps and bloops. Basically, they created a bunch of new themes and then created the retro versions of those same themes. I find the Ducktales Remastered game is a good game. It was close to being great, but there are a few flaws. However, the soundtrack is not one of those flaws. And before we get to number 1, we have a few honorable mentions. Number 1, Sonic the Hedgehog, Marble Zone. The first few Sonic games have some of my favorite music in all of gaming. The smooth beats and the general feel and groove of the tracks made them stand out. This theme sums up the Sonic soundtracks really well. I know I already said the word smooth when describing this, but when you compare it to other soundtracks on the Genesis, Masato did a splendid job working with the limitations of the hardware and covering up that Genesis twang. I think many soundtracks have been ruined because the composer didn't understand the hardware and that twang Genesis sound ended up taking over the beat, and basically making it sound terrible. However, when it comes to Sonic on the Genesis, the soundtracks are almost perfect. So another top 10 is a wrap. We already know everyone will have different submissions when it comes to pretty much any music top 10. Music is a very opinionated subject, and that's the great part about it. Nobody is right, nobody is wrong. But anyways, we would be interested in hearing some of your top 10 fire themes. We like game music, so we will check them out for sure. And our next top 10 just might be desert themes. So let us know your favorite desert themes, and you may just see the theme you chose on our next list. From now until then, I am ICC. Thanks for watching. Peace.